year. And I am so honored, and it is such a pleasure to welcome Mr. Albert Hersh here today. St. Paul's has a long tradition of having really important conversations, including Dr. Martin Luther King years ago, and this is in that tradition. I know we have some people from the community who aren't necessarily members of St. Paul's. Can you raise your hands? Welcome, welcome. We are so glad to have you. All right. I'm going to give you just a little brief introduction because Mr. Hersh will give his own history, as you'll hear in a little bit. In these days of theoretical talk about building walls or bridges, it really helps to hear a personal story. I heard Albert's story recently, and it brought me to tears as well as lifted me up. And I'm so glad you're going to get to hear it yourselves today. At 89, Albert Hersh is one of the youngest surviving Holocaust survivors with clear memories of the time his family was taken from what was Czechoslovakia to Auschwitz when he was 15 years old. Between then and now, Albert met his wife Pearl and raised 6 children in Beechwood. They have also 6 grandchildren. His custom cabinet shop, Eastwood Working Company, has been in Little Italy for 60 years. How did he get from there to here? How did he survive? What did he learn about humanity? That is the story that you'll be hearing this morning. A story that is so important to hear and remember now and always. In 35 years of telling this story, he's done it in so many places. At Ohio State University, Miami University, in the Amish community, with Facing History and Ourselves. This is the first time he's done it in a church. Yay, St. Paul's. It's high time for such a blessing. I'm so glad it's here. Lucky for us, their 5th and self-appointed favorite child, Shelby, is our family hairdresser. And he and his wife, Lisa, are here today, and we're so glad to have him. So I asked Shelby for a few tidbits to introduce his dad. I asked him, what's something he said a lot to you growing up? Here's what he told me. Everything happens for the best. Something good happens even from bad. It takes a strong man not to fight, and life is precious. What did your dad tell you about the Holocaust growing up? Shelby said he told us everything. He tells everyone else. He said you've got to remember, you can't forget, you can't let it happen again. When did your dad decide to speak publicly about his experience and why? The first time Shelby remembered was at Beechwood High School in 1982. His sister Serena asked him to tell his story, which he did in front of the whole school, so that people would remember and not let this kind of horror happen again. Without further ado, Albert Hersh.
Good morning. Thank you, Jackie LeMay and Chris Jan, for inviting me here to tell my story. And thanks to the congregation that we're looking forward to see me speak. Congregation of St. Paul for inviting me here and tell my story about surviving the Holocaust. My Holocaust experience. By the wave of a stick, I survived. Good morning, teachers, students. It is a privilege to stand before you today to tell you about what the Nazi regime did to the entire world during the World War II. I thank you for the opportunity you deserve to know the history of these atrocities. While the story that you are about to hear happened to me, it also happened to millions of other people. The Nazis did not just murder Jews. They killed the mentally ill, the homosexuals, gypsies, anybody who was not blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and white, and anyone who stood up to them. You children are the future of our world. It is you who can make our world better, more peaceful place. In this world, history repeats itself. Those who do not learn from our mistakes are doomed to repeat them. Thank you for inviting me here to speak about my misfortune in the Holocaust. All of the experience that you will hear about today took place 73 years ago. First, let me tell you that I speak with a Hungarian, Czechoslovakian, and Yiddish accent. I hope you can understand me. Please know that I come here today as a survivor, not a polished speaker. I'm one of the few lucky ones that survived the Holocaust. By a wave of a stick, and with God's help, I survived. My name is Albert Hersh. Before World War II, my name was Adolf Hershkowitz, and in Yiddish is Avrum, and my mother called me Avrumula. I was born in a small farming town named Tibava, Czechoslovakia. In 1938, Hitler gave part of Slovakia to Hungary. This was very good because this included my hometown, and it kept the Jews in my hometown safe for a little bit longer. I came from a family of 10 children, 6 girls and 4 boys. In the order from the oldest to the youngest, there was Frida, Basha, Malka, Rivka, Froyam, Moshe, Fega, Zachariah, Avrum, and Leah. I was the youngest boy. There were 18 Jewish families in my hometown, which was about 120 people, including children and adults. There were also about 2,000 Christians living in the area. Most were farming families. The Jewish families in my hometown were all very hard workers. In addition to being farmers, all were of different trades. They were butchers, mill workers, bar owners, shoemakers, insurance salesmen, general grocery stores, leather tanners, and also tailors. My family was the tailor of the town. We custom made and supplied all the clothing for the farmers. Our Jewish community in Tibava had our own temple and a Hebrew school. We observed all Jewish holidays. After World War II was over, only 24 of the 120 Jewish people from our village survived. In addition, I lost 60 people from my extended family. Grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, all were murdered. Prior to World War II, I had a very happy, typical childhood for a boy from Tibava. I started Hebrew school when I was 6 years old. From 6 to 8, I went to Hebrew school. From 8 to 3, I went to public school, which was mandated Catholic school. From 4 to 6, I went back to Hebrew school. We had Hebrew school every day, including Sunday. On Saturday, the Sabbath, we rested and went to temple. Even though our school days were long, we had lots of friends and also managed to find time to play soccer, my favorite sport. In 1936, when I was about 8 years old, I heard rumors that Jewish people were being attacked in Germany and put into prisons, and that Jews with no citizens were being sent out of the country. As the years went by, I heard more and more stories about Jews being rounded up and sent out of the country. Not only did these rumors continue, but they kept getting worse. Young Jewish boys and girls from Slovakia came across the border from our hometown and told us horrible stories about thousands of Jewish families who were rounded up and taken to ravines. Once they were there, they were shot and killed and burned with gasoline. Never in our history has anything so gruesome been heard of before, and therefore none of us could or would believe these terrible atrocities. You have to understand, when these atrocities occurred in 1944, there was no internet, there was no TV, no movie shows, no newspapers, no telephones. We did not travel from one town to another on vacation. We did not know what was happening in the cities 100 kilometers away, unless we had relatives visiting from other towns. Our world was very small and did not involve war or evil. So when we heard stories about these types of atrocities, we could not confirm them with a phone call or by using Google or YouTube. Not only that, the horrors that we would experience ourselves were beyond our wildest dreams. Most people today who have the benefit of history books could not even imagine that one human being could treat another with such evil. As World War II progressed, so did the annihilation of the Jewish people. In the beginning of the year of 1944, my older brother Moshe, who was 21 years old, received an order that he must report to a war camp. After that, we did not hear from him. Just before the spring of that same year, an order came that told us to gather at the temple with 50 kilos of clothing and food and leave our homes. They made us believe that we were just being relocated to farms. Being God-fearing, faithful, and trusting people, we believed them and did what we were told to do. My brother and I were concerned. We pleaded with our mother not to go. But she cried and convinced us to go along so we would be all together and not have to worry about each other. I was only 14 years old at that time, and my brother Zachariah was only 15 years old. So we listened to our mother and we went together. The Shandars, the Hungarian police with feathers in their black hats, loaded us into horse-driven wagons and took us to the ghetto, which was an old brick factory fenced in with barbed wires in the city of Usharad. We stayed there for only 2 weeks, fenced in with our regular food or sanitary conditions. In the ghetto, we had only the food that we brought with us to eat. After about 2 weeks in the ghetto, the Shadars came to put us into the train, and that was made up of cattle cars. But they didn't ask us to get on the train. They were on horseback and used whips and sticks to round us up. The Shandars were cursing at us and called us Bido Jido, dirty Jews, and hitting us on our heads and bodies. We loaded up into the cattle cars, about 100 people in each car. Old people, babies, sick people were all in there together, with no food, water, or sanitary conditions. People had to relieve themselves right where they were sitting. I was on the train with my mother, my sister Malka, Eliah, my brother Zachariah, my uncle Joseph, my aunt Dora, and my cousins Moshe, Yonah, Malka, and Handel. My uncle Joseph was a very handsome, strong young man who was a major in the Austrian-Hungary army and had fought in World War I for our country, which was the same country that was putting him into the train. I remember he was looking out through the slats in the walls of the train, trying to see where we are going. He said that it looked like we were going to Krakow, Poland. My mother was trying to be brave for us, but she was very scared and spent most of the time on the train crying. We were on the train for one day and one full night, and then we arrived at Auschwitz. Once we were in Auschwitz, the old prisoners that were already there opened the doors and told us to get off the train. The old prisoners knew what went on at Auschwitz. So in an effort to help us and save as many of us as they could from going to the gas chambers, they told the young boys and girls to say they were older than they were and told the mothers with the little babies to give the babies to their mothers and grandmothers and older women. The old prisoners knew that the Nazis would keep the healthy young people for work and would gas and kill the rest of the people. We had no idea the atrocities we were about to face. As we got off the train, they lined us up in rows, separating the men from the women. That was the last time I saw my mother. And to sisters, Malka and Laya, I never had a chance to say goodbye to them. As they marched us in our two lines, men and women, we came upon a tall SS soldier with a stick. The SS soldier, whose name I later found out was the Dr. Mengele, who would look at each person and would wave the stick to the left or to the right. He is the one who determined who would live or who would die. The older men and women went to the right. The younger men and women went to the left. My mother, my sister Malka, and Laya, and my uncle Joseph, my aunt Dora, and my cousin Yonah were all waved to the right. My brother Zachariah, my cousin Malka, Handel, and Moshe, and I were waved to the left. By that wave of a stick, it gave me a chance to survive. My cousin Moshe was standing right beside me as we were ordered to the left, but he decided to run to his father. We'll learn later that was the big mistake, because everyone who went to the right went directly to the gas chambers, where they were murdered with the most sadistic way. They were told that they were to take a shower. They were humiliated, forced to undress, and shoved into the shower rooms.